talk about acoustic guitar. Before there was ever an electric guitar, which is a modern staple in our Western music that we pretty much love listening to, there was always an acoustic guitar. It's a beautiful, simple instrument that is exactly what you see is what you get, basically. Got the projection coming out of this sound hole. Sound is resonating in this body and creating the tone of the instrument. And I'm probably butchering the exact physics of how that works, but us striking the strings creates like a resonance in the strings. They start vibrating, and as they vibrate, it travels through this body and creates a sound that starts getting projected out of this sound hole, right? So what I want to show you today is how you can take your acoustic guitar, and it doesn't have to be a fancy one. As you can see, this is the Guild, I think it's the OM240E. It's not an expensive acoustic guitar. It's probably like maybe 400 bucks new, I think. I got a deal on it, bought it a little bit cheaper than that, 300 something bucks a few years back. And you know, it's just like kind of a smaller, almost parlor size guitar. But I like it. I think it sounds really good. Feels good in my hands because I'm not like the kind of player that has big hands. I'm kind of a smaller guy, as you can see. You know, you don't have to have this big dreadnought Martin acoustic in order to get like big full resonant tones. Obviously the physics of the instrument are going to be mostly what they are, so I'm not suggesting to you that we can make this sound like a huge acoustic guitar that's got beautiful full bottom end and everything. It's going to be, you know, the best we can do is to just capture the sound that's coming out of this when you're in person listening to it authentically. I'm just going to show you some different approaches that you can use with some pretty inexpensive mics in a room with some basic treatment, and you can record some stuff that's going to sound really nice for your next project. And yeah, so don't discount yourself. You can use acoustic guitar and record some real organic instruments right from your home studio, and I'm going to show you the approaches that I suggest to get these nice tones. So let's go to the studio and let's take a look. Let's see how this is done. Okay, so now we're in the home studio, and I'm going to show you just a few different techniques. We're going to give kind of a broad overview on how we're going to do this. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to record in mono, so with one microphone. And I have two different microphones that I want to show you. So the first one is this microphone right here, which I will flash a picture of on the screen. It is the Roswell Pro Audio Mini K47, a really terrific, just all around kind of Swiss Army knife, large diaphragm condenser microphone. Even though the name Mini is in the name of the microphone. It is kind of like the capsule of sort of like the Neumann. I believe he modeled it after that anyway. The price point on these, they used to run about 300 bucks. Nowadays they sell for about 350 bucks. So the price went up a little bit, but it's just a great all-around mic. You can use it on vocals, you can use it to record your like drum overheads, acoustic guitar, obviously, like what we're going to do today. Basically, any acoustic sound source. You could put it on a guitar cap too if you wanted to mic your guitar amp. But I strongly recommend getting like a large diaphragm condenser microphone. The budget on that is probably about 300 bucks. I mean, you can get a good one for 100 bucks. But I'd say the max that you need to spend to get something that's like really solid is about 300. So anywhere between 100 and 300. And I can put together on the blog, there will be a list of some mics that I recommend for you. And then secondarily, we have a small diaphragm. It's basically like what they call a pencil mic, small diaphragm condenser from this company called Monoprice. They sell a lot of like electronics and things like that. It's one of the first microphones I ever bought because it's cheap. Actually, surprisingly good quality for the price. So that's just to demonstrate the fact that we can get not only two different tones and sounds, but that we can actually, with varying levels of quality in terms of price point and the microphone range, you know, you can get something that sounds good and usable. So We're going to record with the Mini K47 in mono, the Monoprice Pencil Mic in mono, and then I'm going to show you like a stereo pairing of how it would sound when you've got both mics on the guitar. Probably 9 times out of 10, miking with just one mic in mono is all that you're going to need. Because unless your song revolves around the acoustic guitar completely, and it's a laid back kind of stripped back ballad sort of tune, which is what I'm going to show you today, that's what we have in mind, then mono is going to be just fine because your acoustic guitar is just another element in your track. If you've got a stereo mic'd acoustic guitar, maybe you've got stereo electric guitars, maybe not. Let's say you got stereo keys and then a stereo synth and everything in the mix is just stereo, stereo, stereo. Well then, if everything is completely wide and stereo, then that means you've left nothing up the middle except for maybe the kick drum and the bass. And then you're going to end up with a mix that doesn't really sound nearly as wide. I'm going to show you kind of a singer-songwriter ballad style song for our demonstration today that I've kind of put together for you. And stereo miking will work pretty well for that actually, because this song is kind of like written around the acoustic guitar. So let's jump in and take a look at that. Now before we start recording and actually capturing some audio, I figured that I would at least show you what not to do when you're trying to record your acoustic guitar, anywhere really. So unfortunately what happens is you'll see a lot of people do this, where they'll take their mic and they'll just put it like right up against the acoustic guitar, like right in front of the sound hole. And they think that, oh, this is going to sound good because this is where all the sound's coming out and we want to get a nice close capture. No, not the case. There's something with microphones that you should know about. Everyone who is into any kind of recording or music production should know about this. It's called the proximity effect. And basically what that means is the closer you get to a microphone, the more that you're going to start to feel those like low frequencies building up, and it creates this big boomy resonance. And that's not something that you want with acoustic guitar. And think about it, like when this is being played and all this sound is coming out, this is not how a normal person listens to the acoustic guitar. They don't take their ear and they put it right up next to the sound hole and let it all blast out. And so most of the low frequencies are kind of coming out of here and they have no time to develop, because if you think about sound waves, lower frequencies have a much longer amplitude, which basically is a fancy way of saying that the waves are much longer and slower in how they develop. Which, what that means in practical terms is the further out you go, the more that you'll start to hear the bass. And so we're just blasting this microphone with all this sound. You don't want to do that, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to back up the microphone from the guitar and have it at least be about 6 to 10, maybe 12 inches away. The more you back it off of the guitar, the more you're going to get kind of a mixture of your room sound and the guitar sound. And if you're in a room that's not like this beautiful, nice studio, that it's not a great sounding room, you've just kind of taken, like what a home studio is, you've just treated a regular room to try to sort of improvise it into a studio, then maybe you want to try to keep it as close as possible without going too crazy. So maybe about 8 inches away. And we're going to point it not directly on the sound hole and not directly at the fretboard either, but we're going to do like a compromise where, watch this. So it's going to be positionally more or less around where the sound hole is, but then we're just going to take it and we're going to rotate it so that way positionally it's by the sound hole, but it's pointing towards the guitar's fretboard, particularly somewhere around, oh, say the 12th fret. So if you take a line here and you sort of draw an imaginary line from here, it's kind of ending up around the position of the 12th fret. But where it's at is kind of directly across from the sound hole, right? So yeah, I recommend you do this because you're going to get a mixture of sort of the brightness and openness of the guitar from the neck, and then some of the body, like the fullness of the instrument from the sound hole. So we're going to try that approach, and we're going to start with the Mini K47, and we're going to play along to this track that we've created, and then we will switch over to the pencil mic so you guys can hear how that sounds, so you can catch the different nuances, and then we'll go to stereo miking, and we'll see how they all sound in context. So I'm big on context. If it's not in context and you're just hearing it on its own, it gives you some idea, but you're not getting the whole picture. So. Okay, now before we record in stereo, I want to take a moment to just kind of briefly explain what we're doing here conceptually. So we've used the Mini K47 in mono. We've used the Monoprice Pencil Mic in mono. It's kind of ironic, isn't it? No pun intended. And now we're going to combine the two on a stereo track. Most DAWs have the ability to create a track that's stereo where there's input from two different channels on it. Or you can just create two mono tracks and pan one all the way to the left and pan the other all the way to the right. Doesn't matter. It gives you the same outcome. So what we're doing now is, before we had a mono mic, sort of creating a compromise between the various sounds that are coming out of the acoustic guitar. So we had it away from the sound hole, kind of positioned at where the sound hole is, but we had it angled in towards the fretboard and the neck of the guitar. Just kind of try to get the best of both worlds sort of sound. However, now that we're in stereo, we don't really need to pick and choose. We can have both. So I'm going to take my large diaphragm mic, and I'm going to position it across from the sound hole, pointing right at the sound hole, so that we can pick up like sort of the body of the instrument and the resonance and all of the whatever low end this little parlor guitar could put out anyway. And then the small diaphragm condenser is going to be positioned away from the neck and the fretboard of the guitar here, so as to kind of get this nice, the brightness and the crispness of the notes that are being played. And when the two are blended together, you do get a nice full acoustic guitar sound. Just a quick note, when it comes to miking in stereo, again, as I said before, if the acoustic guitar isn't the main instrument that's really kind of the centerpiece of the song and driving the song, stereo miking is probably not necessary, and in fact might even work against you later. That's the first thing. The second thing, you want to be very careful about how you're positioning the mics when you're in stereo. For example, now that there's two mics miking sound from the same source at the same time, now the possibility for phase problems has just been introduced. What is phase issues? In a nutshell, that is where you have sound waves traveling, and you've got one that's going up, and then the other track, where the other one was going up, you've got the other track going down. That's like the super basic layman's terms explanation of it. And what that does is you sort of get to this this cancellation effect starts to happen. It's called phase cancellation. And you actually start to thin out and kind of lose sound because the sound waves are not consistent with each other, and so they're fighting with each other and actually canceling out how much sound is there. And the reason that this happens is very simple, because one microphone is picking up the sound first before the other one is. So the sound is arriving and hitting it first while the other one is getting it second. So in order to avoid this or to cut down on this as much as humanly possible, make sure that the mic is, basically you're going to take this mic as far away as it is from the acoustic guitar. You want the other one to be just exactly the same distance away from the acoustic guitar. Not any closer, not any further away. And then as far as they are apart from each other as well, keep that consistent, so you almost kind of have like an equilateral triangle that's forming here. This distance is the same as this distance, as the same as this, okay? Now, especially when we're kind of doing this close miking technique, this is kind of a closer miking stereo mic technique, then the phase cancellation isn't going to be as huge of an issue as much as if we were kind of backing them up and going wider to get more of the room sound in the recording as well. And then the last note that I want to say is this is just one possible mic technique for stereo miking. There's many, many, many different possible techniques, and we don't really have time to cover all the different possible techniques in this video. I'm just giving you a broad overview of mono miking with two different mics to see how that sounds, and then blending them together in one stereo track and seeing how that sounds. There's so many different microphone techniques. You can do some more research on that if you'd like. Just look up stereo acoustic guitar miking or something to that effect, and you'll find some good stuff out there. So this is just one way to do it, and this is the way that we're going to do it, and we're going to see how it sounds. So, okay, and now that we've kind of given you that introduction, now let's actually record it and see what happens. I should put a microphone on you when you're barking, because that's your voice. Okay, there you have it. We've recorded our acoustic guitar with two different microphones in mono, and then we took those two microphones and we recorded the same acoustic in stereo. And I hope this was helpful to you, just to give you an idea of kind of the total possibilities that you can execute right in your home studio. As you can see, this is nothing fancy, very much a home studio, probably like a lot of you guys out there who are working in unideal spaces, but that doesn't have to stop us. If we just spend a little bit of money on some gear, we had a microphone that's $300, another microphone that was under $100, and honestly, you could take a large diaphragm for $100, or even get I think there's one called the Rode NT1A. That's a great one, a little more than 100, but you can get great results. Stuff that's really worthy of being on your next recording. And, we haven't even delved into the mixing of it yet. But of course, any good mix on any instrument always starts with getting it recorded properly right at the source. Right from the very beginning, we want to record things that sound as good and crisp as possible, because if we had those mics right up on this baby, forget about it. That woofiness and that huge low end that'd be like distorting that mic, you can't take that out in post, no matter what amount of mixing you do. Okay, I hope you enjoyed. I hope this was helpful. Please let me know what you thought about this. Which of those mics did you think sounded the best? Did you like it in mono? Did you like the K47? Did you like the Monoprice, like that small pencil mic sound on the acoustic? Did you like it in stereo? Let me know what you thought. And let me know if you give this a try at home and see what kind of results you get from it. I'd like to hear about it. So leave a comment down below in the video. And then the other thing I want to tell you about is to get you started producing some music. I've got some handy dandy samples that I have created from scratch just for you, and I've also created a workshop where I took those samples and showed you how to make a song from scratch using nothing but the samples. A little bit different than what we did today, recording like real organic instruments, but there's a million different ways to skin a cat, right? So you can make a song all electronically with samples, or you can use real organic instruments, but it doesn't really matter as long as what you're doing is authentic to yourself. So the link for that will be in the description. Yeah, so if you like the video, leave a comment. Give me a thumbs up. I would really appreciate that. Hit the subscribe button and even the notification bell, you know, all that good stuff. So, all right. Thanks, guys, and we'll be seeing you next time.